I never, ever thought that I would have to wear my tribal ID. And everybody is. We're all wearing our tribal IDs around our neck. This is ridiculous. We shouldn't have to do this in our own land. And this is what it's come to.
A major immigration crackdown in Minnesota's Twin Cities resulted in Native Americans being detained, including Red Lake Nation descendant Jose Roberto Ramirez. It also resulted in the shooting death of Renee Nicole Good and sparked outrage in the community and beyond. With us today to talk about this are two Native leaders, Michael Stopp and Mary Lagarde. Thank you both for joining me.
You're welcome.
Amelia, thank you so much for having us.
Mary, what are things looking like right now for the Native American community in Minneapolis?
Well, I can say that it has been a really scary time for our community. So right now, I can look outside. We have patrols, community patrols that are on the ground, and they are out 24 hours a day, keeping our community, our community members, our organizations safe. And so it really is scary here. There are a lot of federal agents that are in the Twin Cities. So not just Minneapolis, but Minneapolis, St. Paul. I don't know. It's been a really scary time. I don't know how to describe it. It's like you don't want to leave the house. And that's how most of our people are feeling right now. Our elders are scared. Our young people, this is really impacting our kids.
One thing that we have seen is a rapid mobilization and response from dozens of tribal leaders. Both Michael and Mary, what are some things that you guys have heard from tribal leaders, or what have you witnessed be done to help protect the community and spread information?
So what we're seeing is that the tribes are doing ID events here in the Twin Cities. The White Earth Band of Ojibwe is at the Indian Center doing free IDs. But we've heard that there's other tribes too. So Red Lake, Leech Lake, Boys Fort, they will also be having events to get IDs to their community members.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but the idea of getting that information out, making sure that tribal members have their IDs on them. Most tribal leaders, what I'm hearing from in direction is, one, to stay away, and two, if you're going to be there and you have business to do, make sure you have your ID with you, specifically your tribal ID, which will recognize you as an American Indian.
It's just really important. I never, ever thought that I would have to wear my tribal ID. And everybody is. We're all wearing our tribal IDs around our neck. This is ridiculous. We shouldn't have to do this in our own land, and this is what it's come to.
In terms of immigration crackdowns across the nation, would you like to talk about what legal precedent they have for doing this, or what it kind of looks like in terms of what they can do?
Yeah, if we're looking at what's going on with ICE right now, everything they're doing is completely within the law. And if that's the case, then we need to go back and look at the law. If you're having issues with this, like many of us are, we need to get to Congress. Congress has dropped the ball again and again on dealing with both border security and immigration policy. That is what led us to where we are. Obviously, the Trump administration has made a choice to exercise their authority in a way that hasn't been done in America, as far as I know, ever, but it is still within the law. And so we need to look at why those laws are the way they are and have them changed to reflect what we as a people actually want to see. Why are we allowing this to happen? Why is this a good thing? Why this is a bad thing? I believe in a strong border. I believe that we need to understand who's coming across our border, but we also need to understand that we have immigrants in this country that help our economy every day of the year. It's a big part of our economy. And we have to find that balance, and that's why we have our elected officials in Congress to make these decisions and make these hard choices, and they're not getting it done. You need to talk to your member of Congress and tell them they need to figure this out. They keep passing the ball. They've been doing it as long as I've been alive and as long as I've been working in politics. I think this is finally coming to a head where members of Congress have to take it seriously and do something.
Thank you, and thank you both for taking time to join me on the ICT Newscast today.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia.
U.S.
or
President
China
Donald
will
Trump
take over
wants
Greenland,
Greenland.
and we're not going to have Russia
Indigenous
or China
leaders
as a neighbor.
react. Ayu Peter is an Inuit activist and lawyer who was born in Greenland and who currently makes her home in Iqaluit, Nunavut, Canada. She's been a longtime defender of Indigenous rights and Inuit sovereignty in Greenland, which were the focus of the award-winning documentary Twice Colonized. She is alarmed that the rhetoric by the Trump administration to annex her home country is rising and becoming more threatening.
The fact that the US, Canada, and Greenland and Denmark are part of the NATO and that he's willing to go against all the agreements and defending the Arctic, attacking people who are your allies should not even be on the table. Greenland has had good relations with the United States for decades, since the Second World War. And what Greenland politicians are wishing and want is a working relationship that worked before and not threatening the people and the country of Greenland.
Peter believes that national security is a pretext for annexation and that the real reason is exploiting Greenland's natural resources, including rare earth minerals.
If you look at geography, right, United States and then Canada and then Greenland, and if he's concerned about China and Russia, then that would be, I'm thinking that is how he's thinking, so that he has more land base and ocean base, water base to, as he's saying, to protect. But I think he's just using that as an excuse to take control of all the minerals and all the riches that Greenland has, so that he doesn't have to buy Greenland. He can just take all the minerals and oil and everything that he wants. I think he's trying to sidetrack us or have us focus on something else other than what it is that he really wants. But he hasn't said out loud what it is that he really wants. And that's why the Greenlandic leaders and the Danes would like him to be truthful in what it is that he is wanting, and maybe there could be some cooperation, as opposed to threatening people.
Peter believes that Inuit people's tradition of building consensus and working together is what is needed right now.
We need to get together and support each other and talk the way with respect that we always do. And in together, I think it would bring some kind of a peace. Because we've lived here thousands and thousands of years and we ain't going anywhere. We like the cold and we like our culture, we like our language. And I think together, when we get together, we should support each other, and that would only bring relief for us.
From the Chippewas of Kettle and Stony Point First Nation, I'm Miles Morso for ICT.
Senator Tom Brewer served the people of the 48th Legislative District in Nebraska from 2017 to 2025. He started his 36-year military career in 1977 with the Nebraska Army National Guard. He's been a leader on the battlefield in Afghanistan, and Senator Brewer just returned from a humanitarian relief mission to the Ukraine. This is his 8th trip since the war began 4 years ago. He's a citizen of the Oglala Lakota tribe and lives in Gordon, Nebraska. Welcome to the ICT Newscast, Senator.
Well, thanks for having me.
8 trips to Ukraine.
Yes, well, I had 8 trips to Afghanistan also, but they were a little longer than the ones in the Ukraine. Usually, Ukraine's my first trip in spring of 2022, right after the war started, we were there for several months. But this last time we went for pretty much the month of December was we were over there, and it's pretty amazing to see how much the war has changed in the last 4 years.
And why have you decided to take on this work?
Well, there was a a need, obviously, because there were so many people that were displaced because of the war. And there were a lot of, especially elderly, that were trapped between the Russian lines and the Ukrainian lines. And they're poor. The reason they stayed when everyone else left is because they had no car, they had no money. And they were left basically to survive on their own, and they really didn't have the ability to do that. So we've worked through a number of different organizations to secure food mostly, but we also stoves, small wood stoves, the very things they need just for survival. And so we plan missions, some day missions, some night missions, to go and get into those areas and drop off supplies and then get back out. And the fact that they're so grateful for us being there. We all remember what it was like in Iraq and Afghanistan, that really, once we left the bases, we could never really interface with society over there much. We weren't very welcome. And it's so much different in Ukraine. The people, it doesn't matter, a small town, big town, little old ladies will come up and hug you and thank you. And, if we're going to sacrifice blood and treasure, that's the places we should look at doing it, not in places where we're not, how shall I put it, welcome.
It's been 4 long years, and now we're seeing the United States taking some bold moves in Venezuela.
He probably was in the category of leaders, a very difficult leader for his people. I think he probably was in this situation where he was not duly elected. They had an election and he didn't end up winning it. So he basically decreed that he was going to stay anyway, which is not a very good way of handling a election. But he there was enough issues that I understand why it happened. You can give an image to the rest of the world that is not necessarily a very positive one if that's the technique you use in changing power. I guess if I was in charge, I would have simply used the blockade to force them to have their system change power and someone to come in. As much as we'd like to think we'll do things our way because we're smart enough to know what's right, that doesn't necessarily sell worldwide. They see us, more in that light of a bully, which, that's the light you want to see a Putin in. That's the light you want to see the ones that are really bad people. And we're not bad people. I think we were just trying to find a way to help change that situation for Venezuela, because they were a very prosperous country. They have so many oil resources, but it was being poorly managed. So indirectly, they helped Ukraine by what happened there. But I think what's coming in the near future with Colombia and other things, I think we have to tread very lightly and as much as we can let them be the ones that control their destiny.
I wanted to turn a little bit closer to home to the Pine Ridge Reservation. And last week, the Wounded Knee Massacre anniversary happened again. And we saw a transfer of 40 acres to the tribes so that site will be commemorated in the future. Everybody showed up, the congressional delegation and all the leaders. And for me, as a relative, it was a nice sight to see.
It was, what I guess, if there's any level of disappointment, it's that that should have happened a long time ago. We have had a story that has not been told accurately, and the failure on the part of the administration to pull back the Medal of Honors that were given there really kind of hit home for me and just kind of bored a hole in my soul, because anybody, and you can read even the 7th Cavalry recounts of what happened there, there's no way to justify a Medal of Honor for literally a massacre.
Well, I think we have hopeful futures on all sides. Senator Brewer, thank you for joining me on the ICT Newscast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oscar nominations are out later this month. Will there be any Indigenous contenders? I asked Bird Runningwater about the state of Native American filmmaking. For 2 decades, he championed Indigenous film at the Sundance Institute. So, what are you seeing that you're excited about?
Well, I would be excited if there were more Indigenous films. And interestingly, I'm going to be moderating a panel in LA soon that has it's going to be three Native American short films, and all of them have pre-qualified, to be considered within the shorts branch to potentially end up going towards a final nomination. So that's kind of exciting. I like it under Native films or just Native people, Indigenous people in the mix. And there's also another film from Canada, an animated film that's, I think, a pre-qualifier as well, one that I worked on while at Sundance, called Inquo for When the Starving Return. So that's kind of cool that I feel like the short films are getting in the mix, but we need more, as always.
What's going on with the Leonard Peltier film? Didn't you work on that?
I did. I was part of the producing team. I'm a producer on the film, and it's kind of been, we've been kind of busy lately. We've been winning awards because one of the things that I think really helped with our film was we went back into the edit and updated the ending, because originally we were creating the film to help lobby to get him out of prison. And then Biden did what he did, which is great. But by the time that happened in January, we were premiering at Sundance, like our film was already kind of, outdated in a way. We had some closing shots of the announcement of Leonard being released. And so what we did was we went in, we showed more footage of him back at home. And I think it works beautifully. The buying market is still in shambles, I would say. So we'll see how things continue to go. We're not the only film that hasn't sold. There's a field of film carcasses out there awaiting for buyers to hopefully get them onto screen so everybody can appreciate them. All these media companies are suffering. We have to keep billionaires, and millionaires millionaires at the top levels. And so, of course, it's the talent and the artists that ultimately suffer. And so, now I feel like with our current administration, in our leadership at the U.S. government level, it's like there's so much now fear of retaliation because of the kinds of programming and the kinds of maybe on-air critique that they're putting out there. And we're actually seeing kind of like that actually happening. So it's such a weird media culture. And I just say all that just to say that it's been happening for the past 3 years. And so now to actually see Fancy Dance was a film that I executive produced by Erica Tremblay, had Lily Gladstone in it. And when we premiered at Sundance Film Festival in 2023, that was kind of like another sign, because so many films that premiered at Sundance that year went unbought. And when we were fundraising for Three Leonard Peltier 2 years later, or maybe a year later, we were finding that traditional doc funders couldn't fund us because the past 2 years of documentaries that they had all been investing in had gone unsold and weren't making it to the airwaves or to streamers. And so, yeah, it's really been of a shocking culture, I think, for me to have taken the step into the producing world. But, I just feel like going back to the roots of our native film community, like so many people did it for bare bones. We know how to like make things for no budgets, micro budgets, whatever you want to call it. And I think that culture will always save us. I think it's in the long run of us wanting to tell our stories.
Let's go back and reflect on your time at the Sundance Film Institute and the passing of Robert Redford recently. He really was a game changer for Indigenous producers.
Yeah, absolutely. He was just one of the most staunch allies, understanding, his position as, a man of influence, a white man of influence, and where he could lend, his support. And so the program I ran at Sundance was the Indigenous program. And I was the third director to come on board. Prior to me was Heather Ray, And prior to that was Stephen Lewis, who's now the governor at Gila River. And, and this commitment to supporting Indigenous storytelling really precedes the establishment of the Institute. The Institute celebrated 40 years, I think, this year. But this investment, this work that Redford did really went back to his time, prior to Sundance and his own interests and wanting to get Native stories on screen, and also written, directed, produced, and if it's a fiction film, acted by Native people, because he had astonishingly been asked to audition to play a Native character when he was in his early TV acting days. And he was just thought that was appalling when that was standard, industry practice. I found solace in thinking about like my great grandmother on my Cheyenne side, she was actually Lakota, because we were allied tribes back then. She belonged to Red Cloud's band, and she got scooped up with the Cheyennes out in Colorado and shipped to Oklahoma, forcibly removed. But she lived during a time of, I can't even fathom like the changes that happened in her lifetime. I really think that all of us as Native people, Indigenous people, really have to call upon that and really, live and breathe that in order to keep moving forward. And especially with our filmmaking community, I really think that, we'll navigate through it. And, I think some of the best works are yet to come.
That's great to hear. Thanks for joining us, Bird.
Thanks, really appreciate it.
I'm here with Jacob Toby, San Antonio Spurs play-by-play announcer and Mashpee-Wampanoag citizen. Thanks for joining us today on ICT, Jacob.
Thank you. I appreciate being here, man. This is amazing.
Can you just tell me a little bit about your upbringing, and when did you know you wanted to get into broadcasting or sports broadcasting?
Yeah. It's I was very lucky when I was younger. I think I've told people I was kind of between the ages of 10 and 13 when I kind of really wanted to pursue being an announcer in the NBA. I think I fell in love with basketball at an early age, sports at an early age, knew I wasn't going to be able to play in the NBA. So the next logical step is how can I still be around the game? And I was interested in it when I was 10. And then when I was 13, it really sort of set in. I took a trip to the Basketball Hall of Fame in Massachusetts. I'm from Massachusetts. So I took a 2-hour drive to the Hall of Fame. And that day was really where I remember falling in love with broadcasting. I was able to pretend to be an announcer at like one of their exhibits and call famous plays from years past, famous historic NBA plays. And when I was doing that, I just kind of felt something in me that was like, this is what you want. This is what you should do.
It's an exclusive club. There are only so many play-by-play announcers, and the Spurs are a premier organization not only in the NBA but I would say across all sports. When you what went through your mind when you got the news that you got the job?
A lot of emotions, a lot of emotions, because it wasn't my first crack at an NBA job. I had interviewed for 3 others beforehand and got told no. And so when you're that close, it's tough to hear no. But when you hear yes, it it's going to change your life, because it's, again, one of 30 jobs in for the best league in the world. Overcome with emotion, excitement. I felt really lucky. I felt blessed. I felt like I deserved it because I had worked so hard. And, people may look at me and say, "Hey, you're a young kid." Like, yeah, I am. But I was working behind the scenes since, I was in high school, calling any sport I could, trying to do any broadcast I could, any internship, any job. I would, pretty much made all the sacrifices you have to make to be able to make it in this business.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of leads into my next question is, what does it mean to represent the Mashpee on a level like the NBA? I think I saw a clip or seen a couple clips where you kind of introduce yourself as a Indigenous person. But yeah, what does that mean to you, and how do you bring your culture into the broadcasts or as a part of what you do?
Yeah, it means a lot. I think to be a minority in the space. There's not a lot of us in on television, in the NBA as announcers. So I felt that was important to bring up right away. If I want to represent the community in the best way possible, And the fact that the Spurs now have signed Lindy Waters, who's one of the only few Native American players in the NBA, like him and I together, is quite powerful for people to see that. Yeah, obviously we all want to play in the NBA, and Lindy is so talented, but you can also be an announcer, and you don't have to be in sports. You can be in anything, and that's what I've tried to do. I've went out to a couple different Native speaking events over the summer, over the last couple of years, and really tried to spread that message of, I had a dream to be on TV. Like, that was my dream, but your dream can be totally different, and you could still want to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, no matter what your background is and how you grew up. So I try to always represent that. I wear a bolo tie that my cousin made that is Native, and so from time to time I'll wear that. I have some other jewelry that I'll wear as well. I have a really beautiful wampum necklace that I'm planning to wear this year that I haven't debuted yet, but I will. So yeah, just trying to bring all that stuff in, I think, is super, super important. And my partner Sean Elliott, who won a championship with the Spurs, and we're sort of one of the only few minority pairings in the league, and so I take that with great responsibility and try to uplift that as much as I can.
100%. Well, Jacob, thank you for joining me today, and good luck the rest of the year. I'm sure you'll have a lot more new fans.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. This is great.